Hey, it's me again. Flashbacks, flashbacks, flashbacks. I guess you just have to live with those, right? Or maybe the more you talk about them, the more you bring them out into the open, the less power they have over you. Maybe this is therapy. Maybe saying these things out loud is a way of finally getting them out of your system. So let's see, I will give you an update on that. How do you know your worth? Well, the first thing is if you come from an abusive background, and abusive is sometimes such a tiny label for what actually happened. But you get my point. You were most likely not taught to value yourself. You were taught the opposite. You were taught to devalue yourself. And in some cases, that wasn't accidental, it was deliberate. The whole point was to destroy your confidence, your development, your sense of self. And when you grow up in that kind of environment, you eventually have to unlearn everything you were taught about yourself. You have to go through that process of thinking, wait, maybe I am not who they told me I was. And then something strange happens. You start having flashbacks. You remember certain moments and suddenly think, oh my god, I always knew. I just didn't have the words for it. I didn't know how to identify my own worth at the time. I didn't have the awareness, and that's completely understandable. So let me give you an example because funny enough, this is actually a flashback I just had. Let's see if saying these things out loud means they stop coming back, because I've had this particular flashback many times. It's not exactly a pleasant one, although ironically he taught me something about my own worth. The birthday. It was my birthday, and honestly it's probably one of the only birthdays I can remember that wasn't completely ruined. Which is saying something, because if you've experienced narcissistic abuse, you know how much some people love ruining birthdays. Because how dare you celebrate yourself? How dare anyone celebrate you? How dare you have a day that is about you? So anyway, this was during the love bombing phase. If you know, you know. I was very young, I think I was 19, maybe 18. And we went to a casino after dinner. I had some packages with me, birthday gifts. Obviously, I didn't particularly like them, and looking back, it makes complete sense. Why would someone who doesn't genuinely care about you know what you would actually like? Anyway, we went into the casino and walked over to a blackjack table. There was one man sitting there by himself. He was much older than me, probably somewhere in his late 30s or early 40s. He was Swiss, and he asked if he could open a board for me and let me play with his money. I said no. Obviously, I was uncomfortable. I was there with my boyfriend at the time, and this complete stranger was basically saying, come on, let me give you the money, you play. And he kept insisting. Eventually he did it, and every time I won, he gave me half. And I became his lucky charm, if you will, which was actually kind of hilarious, because suddenly this birthday became much more fun. But that's not actually what this flashback is about. It's about how this man made me feel. Because he saw something. He saw me, and he seemed to know immediately. Yes, he was older. Yes, he had more life experience, but He recognized something in me that I hadn't learned to recognize in myself yet. What I find so interesting is that he didn't try to exploit it. He didn't try to manipulate me. He didn't try to use what he saw against me. He basically thought, I see something here, let me add value to it. That's it. And honestly, this is the type of man you want. You're welcome. Another free dating lesson. Because he was not desperate. He wasn't trying to possess me. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He didn't need anything from me. He had his own life. He simply saw something he liked and thought, let me make this experience better for her. And yes, technically he benefited too. He was winning because I was playing, but there was no sense of, I'm going to take advantage of this girl. It was almost the opposite. It was, I see your potential, let me put something behind it. Let me elevate it. And that distinction matters. So if you are young, maybe you are 22 listening to this, and you come from a background where nobody ever taught you to value yourself, think about those moments. Think about the people who recognize something in you before you were capable of recognize it yourself. It doesn't have to be romantic. It could be a man, a woman, a teacher, a friend, a father figure, and please, not in some creepy or weird way. I am talking about in a genuine way. A person who looked at you and thought, there is something here. You are capable of more than you realize. I see you. Think about those moments, because sometimes other people can see your worth before you have the language to describe it yourself. And when you look back, you might suddenly realize, oh, there it is, that's part of my worth. Obviously, that's only one tiny piece of the puzzle. Your worth isn't determined by how other people see you. You are worthy simply because you are a human being, but sometimes you need those moments to remind yourself of something you were taught to forget. And maybe that's why this flashback came back. Maybe it wasn't here to hurt me. Maybe it came back so I could finally understand what I couldn't understand at 19. And if you're wondering what this man looked like, I remember he was giving Callum Turner meets James Bond type of vibes. I know he lived in Switzerland. I think he was born and raised there, and he had this very old money energy. Just completely unbothered. He was giving, I have nothing to prove. And honestly, we do prefer old money. I do prefer old money. Maybe it's not even about the money. It's about what the money represents when someone has it for generations. Values, restraint, confidence, knowing you don't have to chase everything you see. And maybe that's why this man stayed in my memory, because for a few hours someone looked at me and saw something valuable. And instead of trying to destroy it, he added to it. So if you're trying to figure out your worth, start there. Look back, find those moments, find the people who saw something in you before you could see it for yourself. And maybe you will realize you always knew, you just needed to remember. Anyways, maybe this flashback won't come back again. And if it does, well, I guess we will talk about it again. So on that note, voice note, I will talk to you very soon. Bye!